Welcome to fantasy fanfiction. Comprehension is against the heavens. The end of the law turns into a real dragon, shocking the world. Chapter 1. Blue Star. R12903 Underground Base. There are so many snakes. Suzan opened his eyes and was immediately frightened by the scene in front of him. In front of me, snakes of different colors were squirming and crawling. There were black rings, gold rings, triangular heads, round heads, long and short ones, and there were almost no heads. He subconsciously wanted to scream and retreat. But right away, he reacted. Not only was he unable to make a sound, but he was also unable to feel the existence of his arms and legs. He clearly remembered it. He was terminally ill, and after giving his last words, he completely lost his life. Did I become a snake? Suzan was completely stunned. Through neurofeedback throughout his body, he can already feel the existence of his body. A small snake about 1 meter long. His heart beat rapidly. It was such a mysterious thing to be reborn as a snake. The completely different senses from humans made him very novel. Suzan was not frustrated at all. I already suffered from an incurable disease in my previous life, but now I have a chance to live another life. Even if I become a snake, I can still make money. You were reborn as a snake, and time and space underwent unknown changes. You were blessed by the will of the world and gained heaven-defying enlightenment. Close black lens bracket. A stream of information emerged. Suzan's thoughts were interrupted. His heart was shaking. Incredible understanding. This is absolutely awesome. Unexpectedly, his previous life was mediocre, but after being reborn as a snake, he would have such an incredible talent. At this moment, Suzan doesn't think it's painful to be reborn as a snake at all. He has a heaven-defying understanding. As long as he finds the right method, one day he can continue to evolve, from a snake to a python, and from a dragon to a dragon. You can even become the dragon god and dragon ancestor one day and pursue the path of eternal immortality. That's much more interesting than being immortal. Suzan cheered up. But now we have to figure out where this is. Why are there so many snakes? Suzan had some doubts in his heart. He is very receptive and has already begun to think about what to do next. A swarm of snakes gathered before my eyes. Obviously this is not a routine situation. And there was no sign of struggle at all. Hiss. There were screams of snakes everywhere. If it were a human being, Suzan would definitely be frightened to see it. But now he is a snake. So scared. Snakes are not intelligent, but they can obtain some complex information from each other's hisses and secretions, and even accept some simple instructions. Originally, Suzan didn't think it was anything when he heard the whining noises. But just after awakening to the heaven-defying enlightenment, the whole world is different. At this time, he listened to the screams around him and smelled the biopheromone that only snakes could smell. Lights of inspiration flashed in his mind, and all kinds of realizations suddenly came to his mind. He watched and even began to try to adjust the smell of pheromones and the sound of his screams. You listen to the screams of snakes and the distribution of pheromones, you get inspiration from them, and then you adjust yourself, and you create a method to control snakes. Close black lens bracket. Suzan felt excited in his heart. This is heaven-defying understanding. He actually created a method of controlling snakes in a short period of time. In short, Suzan can now control a group of snakes, and it is no exaggeration to call him the Snake King. Hiss. Suzan breathed out the snake letter, and a slight and unique neighing sound resounded, as if it contained supreme majesty. At the same time, there was a smell that only snakes could feel emanating from his side. The next moment, the chaotic hissing sounds of the snakes all stopped. All the snakes were frozen in place, and even the snakes near Suzan couldn't help but bow down, as if they were afraid and worshipping Suzan, the king of snakes. That scene was a bit shocking. All snakes worship. Protect the king. Suzan was a little proud. But immediately, I felt a chill in my heart. Because a voice came clearly from outside. What's going on? Why don't these beasts stop barking? Are they all dead? If they are all dead, the boss will not let us go. Lao Li, go and have a look. Suzan was shocked. And look at this situation. Maybe these snakes were all captured. This is the worst case scenario. If you dare to catch so many snakes, and there are many precious and protected snakes among them, you are definitely not an ordinary person, and maybe you are armed. Although Suzan had considered these situations before, when this possibility was greatly enhanced, he couldn't help but feel a sinking feeling in his heart. Although he has an incredible understanding. But now that there is insufficient development time, it is difficult for a 1-meter snake to pose a threat to an adult. Suzan gradually calmed down. He secretly activated the method of controlling snakes, causing other snakes to resume their original chaotic neighing sounds. At the same time, he quietly asked nearby snakes to hide their bodies. It was better to find out the situation first. Hey, the ghost started screaming again, these beasts. The vulgar man's voice sounded again. Getting closer. You can clearly feel the light dimming. Then Suzan saw an arm reaching down from the top of his head at an extremely fast speed. Suzan's heart moved. Use pheromones to control a venomous snake to bite this arm. This poisonous snake is very fast and bounces like an arrow. But that arm is faster. Only a chuckle was heard. Those fingers were like eagle claws, bringing out layers of phantoms, accurately grasping the poisonous snake 7 inches, and took the poisonous snake away. What a speed! The speed of the snake is beyond what ordinary people can react with their nerves. Ha ha ha, this little poisonous snake wants to bite Grandpa Lee. He really thinks that Grandpa Lee is a vegetarian. Come on, brothers, let's have a little snake to drink with us today. The man laughed more heartily. There were other voices. Lao Li, don't be greedy. Be careful that the boss won't spare you when he comes back. Oh, it's not like those experimental precious snakes on the lower floors. There are so many snakes here. It doesn't hurt to eat one. We practice martial arts every day, so we have to replenish it after all. If you don't tell me, the boss won't know. What I just said, the surveillance has been turned off. Come, let's eat snake meat soup together later to replenish our body. There was a burst of laughter. The sound gradually became quieter. Suzan was thoughtful and captured several key pieces of information from this conversation. First, these snakes are quite valuable, and there is not much danger for the time being. At most, these people can catch 1 or 2 occasionally to satisfy their greed. But the most precious ones are probably the snakes used for testing at the bottom. Secondly, it's the so-called boss in martial arts. At last, there is surveillance here, but these people will eat secretly and turn it off. It seems that this should be a place similar to an underground test base or a factory. These people have force, but I don't know if they have other weapons and equipment. Suzan calculated silently. It seems that escaping is not an easy task. He used the cover of other snakes to crawl toward the edge. When the hand fell from the sky just now, he roughly saw clearly that the place where the snakes were located should be in a box, and there was probably glass to see outside, because the previous one was called Old Lee. The light obviously changed when the guy came over. Soon, Suzan touched the edge. There is indeed glass. His heart was excited, and Snake Eyes quietly looked through the glass of the box towards the outside world. Snake Eyes see a little differently than humans. The overall tone is darker. I don't know if it's because the soul is a human, but Suzan feels that he is very different from ordinary snakes. He can see more clearly, hear farther, and has a wider range of thermal sensing. Looking towards the outside world through the glass, Suzan couldn't help but feel nervous. Wherever you look, it is a vast hall. Large black boxes were placed neatly, and the faint sound of snakes could be heard inside. You know it without saying much. The situation inside was the same as the box Suzan was in. 20 boxes. Each box contains at least 10,000 snakes, which means there are at least 200,000 snakes. Suzan was a little shocked. He continued to observe. Then I saw a group of human figures coming into view. A dozen men with their upper bodies naked and showing off their strong muscles were gathering together to chat and spank. In the middle was an iron pot with the venomous snake that Old Lee had just captured placed in it. A short time, a poisonous snake has been turned into snake soup. Being feasted upon, Suzan's pupils couldn't help but narrowed, revealing the slightest hint of chill. He is also a snake now. He doesn't want to be someone else's food. Suzan listened carefully and tried to block out all the noisy sounds. Tell me, how long are we going to stay in this base? There isn't even a woman in this ungrateful place. I'm really suffocating. Just be content, Lao Zhang. 50,000 a month allows me to stay away from women for 3 years. Moreover, I learned Chinese martial arts here. In the past, could you imagine that martial arts really existed in our world? Wait for 3 years when we go back, I must impress my stinky wife. Ha ha ha, get out of here. If a woman really shows up in front of you, I'm afraid you won't hate me. Hee hee, but having said that, it's not like there are no women here. Manager Shu on the floor below has a hot figure. Shut up. Is Manager Shu someone we can discuss? The bosses respect her very much. What is this guy's identity? What do you think these snakes are for here? They are all a reserve source of experimental products below. Director Shu is very capable. It is said that he is a cutting-edge biologist who returned from studying abroad in a certain country. I don't know what they are testing down there. Okay, don't talk about the experiment. If anyone finds out, we will be in trouble. Come, drink and drink. Suzanne's eyes filled with thoughts. Experimental product. It seems that this place is most likely an underground testing base. I just don't know what the specific test content is. But just think about it. There are so many snakes gathered here that need to be caught. Not a good experiment, I'm afraid. Maybe it's some kind of genetic experiment. A sense of crisis emerged in Suzanne's heart. You have to escape quickly. The longer you stay here, the more dangerous it becomes. Fortunately, my place is only the first level. It should be an above-ground area, and the guards should be as tight as the underground test area. If there are only these people in front of you, if you operate it properly, escaping is not a problem. Suzanne continued to observe. Through the conversations between these people, more and more information about the underground base in front of us was obtained. These people can't even imagine it. Every move he and others made was watched by a snake. This snake is so nourishing. I don't know what's in the food we feed them every day. The boss even told us not to eat it. Lao Li shouted a few times. All the men agreed. Can be seen. After eating the snake meat soup, steam began to rise from the heads of these people. Now is a good time to do Zhan Zhuang Kung Fu, brothers, don't waste it. A rather dignified man among them said. Everyone immediately stood up under Suzanne's surprised eyes. I just listened to it for so long. The word, guoshu, has been heard quite a lot, and coupled with the quick movements of Old Li, when he caught the snake, Suzanne has long been extremely curious. After all, I have lived in this civilized world for so long. But I have never heard of any real martial arts. Most of them are just flower displays. At this time, he was reborn as a snake, and he didn't expect to have the opportunity to see another side of the world. Drink. There was a loud shouting in unison, and there was a vague feeling of thunder. More than a dozen men lined up neatly, about 3 meters apart, and then started taking action. Suzanne stared with snake eyes. I saw the men holding their hands flat, their steps slow and open, their waists and hips united, and they slowly squatted down. They immediately felt like the weight of a mountain. Nabu. No. It's far from as simple as squatting on a horse. Suzanne is glad that his snake vision can be seen more clearly. Under the strong perception, he could obviously feel it. After those men squatted down, their normal breathing rhythm changed, and there was a strange rhythm between exhaling and inhaling. Not only that, the body is not completely still. It begins to rise and fall regularly in accordance with the rhythm of breathing, and the muscles are like ripples. Waves of more intense heat steamed over the surfaces of these human bodies. Each one looked like steamed prawns, with red skin. Suzanne was slightly shocked. This scene is definitely far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Who would have thought that in the peaceful era of Blue Star, there would be such a magical national art? After a stick of incense, someone was the first to be unable to hold on. However, he did not fall down, but he changed from a static pile to a moving pile. Drink. Ha! The men's shouts echoed throughout the hall. Each one of them has a nimble body, moves like a rabbit, and the wind of their fists roars, no less than those of the so-called top boxers. Suzanne watched silently. It turns out that this is Chinese martial arts. But right away, the slight shock in his heart gradually turned into desire. People can practice Chinese martial arts and become powerful, why can't snakes? He now possesses a heaven-defying understanding. Why can't he get inspiration from this and create a national martial arts training method belonging to the snake class? This way you will be more confident in escaping. Suzan calmed down. Observe more carefully. All movements within Snake Tong's sight seemed to slow down. The undulations of the men's muscles, their breathing rhythms, and the punches coming in and out were all seen by him one by one. Inspirations kept popping up in his mind. Suzan's incredible understanding gave Suzan extraordinary ability to understand, and his ability to draw parallels from analogies was extremely strong. Situation. The boundaries between humans and snakes are gradually blurring at this moment. The muscles on Suzan's snake body began to vibrate. He spit out the snake message and began to breathe in a unique rhythm. Even more efficient than the breathing rhythm of these people in front of me. Not only did he imitate the national martial arts training methods adapted to snakes from the people in front of him, but he was also far superior to them. You observe human martial arts, analyze their breathing rhythm, and understand its principles. By comparing the physical differences between humans and snakes, you create the snake bone vibration breathing method. Close black lens bracket. At this moment, as the breathing rhythm rises and falls, Suzan can completely feel that his entire snake bones are vibrating slightly, with waves of numbness and muscle soreness, becoming stronger at a speed that defies biological common sense. Is this the martial arts? Suzan was surprised and novel. He just felt like a door to a new world was opening towards him. After creating the snake bone vibration breathing method, he could obviously feel that his body was becoming stronger, with waves of power emerging from the snake body, and then turned into nutrients for growth. Not only that, there is even a strange power bred in the snake's body. A snake that can practice and evolve. How terrible. Today Suzan is just a 1-meter-long snake. With this method of cultivation, it will not be difficult to break biological limits in the future. If he waits until he becomes a giant python 10 meters long or even 30 meters long, coupled with the destructive power of national martial arts, it is hard to imagine how terrifying it will be. Animals are inherently more capable of hunting and evolutionary instincts than humans. Now coupled with my human wisdom, my progress in practicing Chinese martial arts will definitely be much faster than that of humans. Of course, the most important thing is that the snake bone vibration breathing method I created is at least 100 times more effective than the following people's practice. Suzan was very excited. It only takes a short time to practice. You can feel such an obvious growth. The men in the hall have gradually begun to stop their practice rhythm, and the originally red muscles gradually return to their original color. Some people sighed. This cultivation is really difficult. I really don't know when we will be able to take a step further. Brother Zhang, please stop being modest. You are now a master of Ming Jin. You can condense all your strength into one body. If it breaks out, you can hit someone with a huge force of 1,000 kilograms. You may be able to punch through the person with one punch. Yes, we don't know when we will be able to advance to the Ming Jin realm. Brother Zhang is that prestigious middle-aged man. He shook his head and sighed. Ming Jin, and Jin, Hua Jin, and it is said that there are even more terrifying masters above Hua Jin. I am nothing but a small Ming Jin. The boss is really powerful, at least he is also the master of an Jin. However, brothers, don't be discouraged. You can practice more and eat treasure snakes in the next few years. After that, you will definitely be promoted to Mingjin. Everyone nodded. The bowl of snake meat soup just now will make them make a lot of progress next year. Although Chinese martial arts are powerful, they are just like that in today's technological society. No matter how powerful they will still be no match for aircraft and cannons. After all, this is the age of ending law. It is said that there were immortals and gods in the past. I don't know if it is true. Who knows, in the final analysis, you still have to have money and power, so that you can be popular and drink spicy food. Okay, it's time to feed these beasts. The food these beasts eat is really good. Everyone was laughing and joking. Scattered away and began to pour pots of granular food into various glass boxes. Suzan quietly crawled toward the group of snakes, letting other snakes cover him. He didn't want to attract more attention before he was completely sure. Ming Jin, Dark Jin, Hua Jin. Are these the divisions of the realm of Chinese martial arts? According to what this person said, the Ming Jin realm can unleash hundreds of kilograms or even 1,000 kilograms of force at will. It is really terrifying. Moreover, this is only driven by my body. If my size becomes more terrifying, wouldn't it be possible to explode with thousands or even tens of thousands of kilograms of strength? Su Zan was secretly shocked. Combined with the snake bone vibration breathing method that I created, I quickly understood the basis for dividing these realms. At the same time, there are particles floating down from the top of the box, and with the sense of a snake, you can smell a strange fragrance. The snake group has begun to have a tendency to rush for food maniacally. If Su Zan hadn't secretly controlled them, they would have been fighting together now. When the people outside the box were gone, Su Zan loosened his control and let the snakes start eating in disorder, just like usual. But he is alert. He won't eat rashly until he's sure there's something wrong with the food. Just gathered a bunch of them and put them in the corner. Soon, the group of snakes has finished eating. Su Zan observed for a full hour and found nothing unusual. He could even clearly see that the snakes were much more energetic after eating, and seemed to have grown faintly. Coupled with the previous conversation between the thugs outside, there seemed to be a faint envy of snake food. He gradually felt relieved. It seems that this food is indeed harmless. Also, after all the effort to catch so many snakes and put them here, how could they be killed in vain? Su Zan squirmed slowly. Inhale the pile of milky white particles in front of you into your mouth. In an instant, his eyes lit up. I just felt that the granular food melted instantly after entering the mouth, turning into a warm current and drilling into the belly of the snake. Not only that, his body couldn't help but tremble. So cool. It's so cool. This food contains a lot of energy, and it seems to contain some kind of substance that is beneficial to snakes. It seems like it might be used to specially cultivate qualified test subjects. But for me, it's just right. Su Zan felt a joy in his heart. After creating the snake bone shock breathing method, what he lacked most was the energy needed for practice. If there is enough energy, use the digestion ability of your own snake. You will soon be promoted to the so-called Ming Jin realm. He secretly controlled the snakes and intercepted the rare food, while he closed his eyes and began to practice hard. These people can't imagine it at all. It's in this snake box. An inconspicuous little snake is quietly practicing Chinese martial arts. If they were to find out, they would be stunned. Hiss. Buzz buzz. The snake neighed, the snake bones vibrated, and the snake's tail swayed. All contained some kind of special rhythm. The vibrating sound of snake bones that only Su Zan himself could hear echoed continuously. The energy in the body is constantly being consumed, and Su Zan's body becomes stronger at a speed visible to the naked eye. Muscles are tighter. Bones are tougher. Even the body began to grow longer. With Su Zan's current ability to control the snakes, he doesn't have to worry about the lack of food at all. He only needs to keep a small portion to be enough for his cultivation. He immersed himself in practice. Strive for more powerful power. Only when the strength is strong enough, will there be greater hope of escaping. He only occasionally listened to the conversations of these guards and obtained some useful information to facilitate the next action. Despite the dangerous situation, Su Zan has enough patience. A small leak will sink a great ship. Time passes slowly. There was no sun or moon in the box, so Su Zan could only vaguely understand that about 3 or 4 days had passed from the exchanges between the guards. And at this time it has changed drastically. It can be called a transformation. Reflection through glass. Su Zan is completely able to see clearly what he looks like now. The snake's body is more than 2 meters long, twice as long. Zan Hei's body has become much stronger, causing Su Zan's weight to be at least 3 times as much as before, weighing at least 20 kilograms. The flat triangular head looks very intimidating, and the snake eyes reveal indifference and coldness. Ordinary people will be frightened at the sight of it. Faint black snake scales have begun to appear on the body, and the sharp snake teeth are even more powerful weapons. They contain venom and are full of murderous intent. After practicing the snake bone vibration breathing method, Su Zan has begun to evolve in an unknown direction. He became more and more accustomed to controlling the snake's body. And in these few days, the biggest gain is not the transformation of the body, but the breakthrough in the realm of Chinese martial arts. That's right. Just a few days. Suzan has successfully stepped into the realm of Ming Jin that many men outside are envious of. The so-called Ming Jin. It's a sound that's priceless, and one blow can explode the air. The essence is to integrate loose power together to make it more condensed. The stronger the power of the body, the more terrifying the condensed power will be. Now that Suzan has been promoted to Ming Jin, and with his weight of 20 kilograms, if he uses the snake's tail to fly out, the force of 200 kilograms will explode, and it will really roar like an arrow. It will definitely be a big killer when he is not expecting it. To be able to grow so fast. The snake bone vibration breathing method is of course the most critical, but the abundant snake food also plays a role. It's definitely a great place to grow up without having to hunt for yourself. It's a pity that we can't stay any longer, otherwise it would be really miserable if we were captured and used as a test subject. Suzan felt sorry. In these few days, except for these guard men who would catch a snake from time to time and make a meal of snake meat soup, the so-called researchers underground were the real terror. Suzan met that manager Shu, who had a hot figure and sweet appearance, but what he did was terrifying. Give an order. Those white coats show up. Several snake boxes were opened, and mechanical arms fell from the sky. The big snakes had no room to resist. In just an instant, hundreds of big snakes were captured. This was much more terrifying than the guards occasionally stealing one. Suzan's heart trembled when he saw it. He could only rejoice. The snake box he was in was not selected, otherwise it would be a bit miserable. Suzan's heart was filled with a sense of urgency. He had to escape quickly before these white coats came out to select test subjects next time, otherwise the consequences would be unpredictable. And the mysterious boss doesn't know when he will come back. If he comes back, it will be even more troublesome. So, we can't delay it any longer. A cold light flashed in Suzan's eyes. In these few days, in addition to immersing himself in cultivation, he was also listening to the surrounding situation. He got it. Outside this underground base are stretches of mountains and forests, an inaccessible place that can be called a primeval forest. The essence of the base is the underground floors. Although the largest number of experimental reserve snakes are kept on this floor of the hall, they receive the least attention. They are only guarded by a dozen thugs. Generally speaking, these men were divided into two groups and took turns. Sometimes I get lazy. After all, snakes are kept in snake boxes. Snakes without intelligence, even if they are in large numbers, cannot cause any trouble, so these people are not actually very vigilant. It's just that they can't think of it. Among them, Suzan is an alternative. The strongest among these guards is Ming Jin. Although I am also Ming Jin, my current snake body is not strong enough. If we force a confrontation, I won't be able to gain advantage. It's just a trick. I have to escape before the underground guards come up. When I enter the forest and mountains, it will be like a dragon entering the sea. I, a snake, can just find a place to hide and I am not afraid of them. When I evolve to be strong enough, I will come back and settle this account with them. Suzan's pupils became colder and colder as he considered the details of the action in his mind. Slowly curl up your body. Time passes slowly. According to calculations, Suzan estimated that night had fallen, which he felt was the most appropriate time to take action. After escaping in this way, I can run further smoothly under the cover of night. Suzan held his breath, listening to what's going on outside. Within the hall, the two waves of duty are being handed over. You are finally here. Let me tell you, Lao Li, don't eat secretly this time. The boss will be back in a while. If he notices something is wrong by then, I won't be able to save you. I know, don't worry, I know what's going on. Lao Li responded with a smile. When the wave of people on duty walked away, he let out a chuckle and said, "Hey, the boss is not a god. I will monitor the situation. Will he still know if there is a snake missing?" The men around him laughed. They were quite happy about it. Anyway, they are not the ones taking the blame. The most they can do is eat snake meat soup. Suzan listened silently, with a sneer in his heart. He saw these men beating the snake box with sticks, and saw the snakes neighing violently, and couldn't help but laugh. This was one of their few pleasures. Time flies. What follows is just like a repeat of the past few days. Lao Li quietly turned off the surveillance camera, and then everyone began to eat snake meat soup, and then took supplements of snake meat to practice Chinese martial arts. However, in Suzan's eyes at this time, the state of Chinese martial arts of these people seemed a bit crude. Soon, these people have completed their practice of Chinese martial arts. As a rule, just turn monitoring back on. But Suzan obviously wouldn't let them do this. The opportunity has come. Suzan's spirit was highly concentrated, and the snake's body was swallowing strength, and a strange hissing sound came from his snake's mouth. Thanks to breaking through the realm of Ming Jin, Suzan can now not only control the snakes in his own snake box, he can also control the snakes in all 20 snake boxes. There was a majestic neighing sound that only snakes could hear clearly. Suzan issued instructions to all snakes. Stop all activities. In short, play dead. In an instant, the originally noisy hall with the snake hissing suddenly became silent, and the situation was inexplicably strange. What happened? Lao Li, who was about to turn on the surveillance again, was stunned and stopped. Everyone was stunned, and someone said uncertainly, "There is no sound all of a sudden. Is there something wrong? These beasts. Are you pretending to be dead?" Lao Li spat irritably, turned around and walked towards the snake box where Suzan was. He kept hitting the snake box with the stick in his hand, making a bang 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 sound. But the expected snake hissing did not recover. Still extremely silent. Everyone was a little panicked. Look at it quickly, if something goes wrong with these snakes, the boss will tear us apart. Lao Li dropped the stick in his hand and panicked a little. Everyone quickly gathered in front of the glass of the snake boxes and looked inside. Everyone was stunned. I saw that the group of snakes that were usually very active were now paralyzed in place and motionless. Some even had their bellies turned over, looking as if they were dead. Is there something wrong with the food we put in just now? Hurry up and open the box and take a look. If there is a problem, ask the people below to come up. Everyone was really panicked this time. If these hundreds of thousands of snakes die, it will be useless even if they lose their lives, and the end will definitely be miserable. No one can bear this responsibility. Suzan sensed everyone's movements. He hid in the corner, his eyes tightly closed, extremely patient, his heart contracted, and power was brewing in it, ready to burst out at any time. Clang, clang. The sound of metal banging when the snake box was opened echoed in Suzan's heart one after another. He was shocked and his pupils suddenly opened, revealing the indifference and coldness. Light floods in and the cage opens. The opportunity is here. Hiss. Suzan's snake mouth opened, the scarlet snake letter was exposed, and its silent and sharp hiss echoed, like the roar of a snake king, full of supreme majesty. In an instant, in the horrified eyes of everyone, the dead snakes began to revive. All the snakes neigh. Snake riot. Hiss. The scalp-numbing snake hiss suddenly sounded. The scene of hundreds of thousands of snakes hissing together was so terrifying. It was like a devil whispering, and every strong man's heart was trembling. This isn't the cacophony of snakes neighing. But it seems to have some kind of order. Neat and unified. Incomprehensible. A pair of snake eyes without any emotion makes people's hearts palpitate. Even if these people are good at practicing Chinese martial arts, their hearts can't help but beat wildly at this time. Especially when several people leaned over to observe, their faces turned pale. Quick! Close the snake box quickly! Lao Li roared wildly. He felt that his hands and feet were soaked in sweat, and his heart was going crazy. What happened in this short moment was too incredible. First, all the snakes pretended to be dead. After he and others opened the box, they started to riot. Every move of this kind shows the taste of wisdom, but how can snakes without intelligence achieve this? Quick! Close the box quickly. Stay away from these snakes, close the door quickly, put on protective clothing, don't rush. Several guards kept shouting. Finally, they are not all idlers. Someone steps up to take command at critical moments. But obviously, it's too late. The snakes have already begun to attack. Hiss. Suzan continued to make a silent neighing sound. He was hidden among the snakes and was inconspicuous at all. Let these snakes lead the way. Call out! Call out! Call out! Slight cracking sounds continued to be heard as venomous snakes ejected from the snake box, carrying afterimages, and rushed towards the bodies of the guards, like arrows. As early as just now, Suzan had secretly asked the snake, the strongest and most venomous among the snakes, to lie at the entrance of the snake box. At this time, it suddenly exploded. It immediately gave the guards a big surprise. Under normal circumstances, if they have practiced martial arts and have sharp ears and eyesight, even the strongest snakes will not cause any trouble to them. But it's different now. Everyone has to face the attack of dozens of big snakes. The scene was extremely horrifying. Not only that, there was a steady stream of snakes crawling out of the snake box, densely packed. The snakes were pressing on the snakes, squirming and hissing. The scene made people's scalp numb, and they continued to spread around, like a snake disaster. Are these snakes turned into spirits and no tactics? Someone yelled angrily. However, his movements were still extremely swift. Each strong man moved left and right, slapping his palms from time to time, trying to avoid the bites of the poisonous snakes. But some unlucky people still appear. Ah, I was bitten, help me. There are too many venomous snakes. With bare hands and no protective clothing, it is inevitable that gaps will be exposed. Everyone was shocked and their eyes were horrified. They looked over. I saw a strong man with a snub nose covering his wrist with a look of horror. Poisonous snakes are highly venomous and may kill you on the spot if not treated in time. Suzan sneered in his heart. I don't feel anything wrong at all. These people deserve to die. He had climbed out of the snake box silently, and was meandering towards the entrance of the hall among the snakes, trying not to look conspicuous. In the hall, it has completely turned into a sea of snakes. Moreover, snakes are constantly crawling out of the snake box. Although the speed is not as fast as the original snake, it should not be underestimated. Looking at the mess in front of me, Lao Li cursed fiercely. He's such an idiot. Don't worry about closing the snake box for now. Hurry up and lower the door. Let's put on protective clothing and slowly catch these beasts back. Quickly notify Brother Zhang and the others and ask them to come and help. Everyone finally calmed down. Just now, I was confused by the scene of snakes rioting, and I lost my sense of proportion for a moment. But actually just don't panic. They just know. These snakes could not cause any fatal harm to them at all, at most they would be some skin injuries. After all, the people present were not ordinary people. Even those who were bitten by snakes. The antidote has also been injected. There is no big problem in suppressing it for the time being. We can deal with it slowly later. Okay. Just do what Lao Li said. Everyone responded in agreement and started to act separately. After all, he can be regarded as a well-trained guard. Although he is usually a little slack, after reacting at this time, his hands and feet are very agile. Suzan's heart sank slightly as he listened to everyone's conversation. But this was also part of his plan. Originally, the snake riot was just to buy time for themselves. Hiss. He spat out the snake letter, and a silent hissing sound sounded. The fierce venomous snakes in the snake group immediately surrounded and suppressed the guards, trying their best to create trouble for them and slow down their pace. And Suzan himself, no longer hiding, he accelerated and rushed towards the nearest door. There are 4 doors in the lobby on the first floor of the base. The door closest to Suzan is the east door. He had been among the snakes before. He had been deliberately suppressing his speed in order to remain inconspicuous, but at this time there was no need to hide. After walking through the corridor, the east door was already within easy reach. As for the remaining snakes, Suzan also controlled them to rush in all directions. Not to let them escape, but to distract the guards. Suzan's snake body kept winding on the ground at an extremely fast speed. He has successfully practiced Chinese martial arts and has reached the realm of Ming Jin at this time. Coupled with his heaven-defying understanding, his method of action is the most efficient and labor-saving way. A 2-meter-long black-scaled snake can cover a distance of several meters with one flicker. Holy shit, that black snake is so fast, maybe it's a mutant. Chase after it. Don't let it run away. The guards screamed in horror. The black snake was like a black thread, and its speed was astonishing. In the blink of an eye, its body would quickly pass through the corridor. It's heading towards the east gate. Hurry up. Lao Li and the others shouted eagerly, and were about to rush in the direction of Suzan. Although there were other snakes approaching the gate, Suzan was the most eye-catching. If such a unique black snake was allowed to escape, they could not imagine how they and others would be punished. About to give chase. Brother Zhang's suppressed angry roar came from the walkie-talkie on his waist. I'm rushing to the east gate. Leave this side to me and you guys quickly block the other gates. If we don't clean up this mess, we won't even be able to survive. Everyone is excited. Yes, Brother Zhang. Figures one after another had already put on protective clothing and rushed towards other doors despite the entanglement of the snakes. Suzan could only vaguely hear the movement behind him at this time. After he unleashed all his speed, he passed through the corridor easily, and the door in front of him was close at hand. Suzan was extremely excited. These days, he longed for freedom all the time. It's not a good experience to be someone else's cage. As long as he escapes, his official takeoff will begin. The snake's body is winding and moving forward. Suzan's spirit was tense, and he would not take it lightly until he escaped completely. He didn't want to fall at the last step. Suzan had already seen traces of forests and mountains in the distance, and the completely different smell made him excited. But the excitement in his heart suddenly sank before it could rise. I saw the gate in the distance. A familiar muscular figure is staring here. That Ming Jin master, Brother Zhang. Zhang Chong's eyes were full of surprise. He had just finished his shift and had a short rest when he received news that something was going on here. He heard that there seemed to be a mutated snake rushing out from the east gate, and he hurried over to block the door. Unexpectedly, I happened to see Suzan in front of me. The black-scaled snake in front of me is really special. It is 2 meters long and has a black body. Its faint black scales reflect the moonlight. Its snake body is winding and its speed is very fast. It's not that Zhang Chong has never seen other mutant snakes, he even helped deal with some defective products from underground experiments. But the black snake in front of him gave him a particularly special feeling. Especially those pair of vertical pupils. Indifferent, cold, and even full of scrutiny. That feeling. It seems that what I am facing is not a snake, but a ferocious person. How can that be possible? Zhang Chong laughed dumbly, shook his head and twisted his neck, his bones cracking, and he threw out the absurd thoughts in his mind. He chuckled and said, "Little black snake, you are quite capable of escaping here. It seems that the food I fed you before was of some use. However, you should follow me back obediently." He thought he was talking to himself, but he never expected that the black snake in front of him could hear him. Suzan's heart sank slightly. But after seeing that there was only one person in front of me, I gradually felt relieved. Of course he knows. The strong man opposite is a master of Ming Jin. However, he is also in the realm of Ming Jin. There is a great chance of winning if you calculate mentally or unintentionally. Moreover, Suzan's biggest trump card is not Ming Jin, but that others don't know that he is a snake with human intelligence. This is a surefire move at critical moments. Hiss. Suzan straightened his upper body. The long, forked snake letter vomited out seemed to be just relying on instinct to intimidate. Hey, the little black snake is quite fierce. However, your grandpa Zhang is more vicious than you. Zhang Chong laughed ferociously and strode over. After Ming Jin, all the strength in his body was condensed into one force. At this time, he stepped forward like a dragon walking like a tiger. One step was a long way. The human body was much stronger than Suzan's current snake body, and the power exerted was even more terrifying. Zhang Chong was extremely focused. It rushed like a cannonball, blasting a small crater on the spot. His eyes were like a hawk, and his right hand was like a claw, bringing out a slight phantom and pinching Suzan 7 inches. His companion on the intercom had just reminded him that this mutated black snake was extremely fast, so his other hand was across arm, maintaining a defensive posture at all times. Suzan secretly praised it in his heart. You can tell many things from the way the person in front of you takes action, and you will silently keep this method of power operation in mind. This is all his accumulation. Although he has heaven-defying insight, he cannot comprehend the secrets of the method out of thin air. It requires foundation and foundation. Suzan has gradually mastered the correct way to unlock the heaven-defying insight and pays attention to accumulation at all times. But now is not the time to think about that. Seeing Zhang Chong charging fiercely, Suzan's snake tail suddenly used force on the ground, and his body ejected at an extremely fast speed. But the goal is not to choose Zhang Chong, but to choose the empty space on the other side. Want to run away? Zhang Chong's eyes were even more surprised, and there was even a hint of fanaticism in his eyes. You actually know how to escape. It seems that my feeling is right. This black snake might actually have a little bit of simple wisdom. If I can catch this black snake and present it to Director Shu, I might be able to get rich resources for promotion to Enjin. The thought of this, Zhang Chong was extremely excited. He shouted, "Where to run? Use all your strength in an instant." His legs suddenly tightened, his muscles swelled, and his trousers were fully stretched. His legs were like diamond pillars, containing abundant strength. There is a small pit between the steps. Zhang Chong is not only Ming Jin, he has even reached the peak of Ming Jin, a proper boxing champion level master. With all his strength, he caught up with Su Zan in just 3 or 2 steps. Crack! The muffled sound in the night sky was extremely loud. It was the sound of concentrated strength. Zhang Chong was so excited that he attacked with all his strength. The force exploded in the air, making a crackling sound. But Su Zan didn't panic at all, his eyes were full of indifference and calmness. Escape is just an illusion. Su Zan knew that no matter how fast he was, he could not outrun the 2 legs of human Ming Jin. So, he never thought about running away from the beginning. At this time, his powerful senses discovered that this human being had completely given up on defense, and a dangerous light flashed in his pupils. The opportunity is here. Crack! The same muffled sound resounded in the night sky, but it came not from Zhang Chong, but from Su Zan. Although Su Zan had shown speed beyond ordinary snakes before. But the realm of Chinese martial arts has never been revealed. At this time, it suddenly exploded. It immediately had an unexpected effect. The body structure of snakes is much simpler than that of humans. A snake bone goes straight to the bottom. It is simple, but more efficient. In other words, the power of snakes is condensed more directly. His snake bones were shaken slightly, and a powerful force suddenly came from all parts of his body. In an instant, the snake bones collapsed straight up. Call out! It was like a sharp arrow flying through the clouds in the night sky, rubbing the air at an extremely fast speed and making a sharp whistling sound. This was far more than 10 times more ferocious than the previous snake swooping. All of Su Zan's power exploded into one force. It turned into a long black arrow and whizzed towards Zhang Chong's left eye. His pupils were full of indifference and murderous intent. The severe pain contained in the snake's fangs has been brewing. With its current toxicity, it can kill an adult human in an instant without any problem. This is Su Zan's decisive blow. There won't be any surprises. Something unexpected happened, and Zhang Chong was shocked by the scene in front of him. This black snake actually managed to kill him. Not only that, what did he just hear? The crackling sound of Ming Jin Master's concentrated strength. He will never hear it wrong. But, how is this possible? A snake actually cultivates Ming Jin. This is simply a fantasy. This snake is not only smart, but also has wisdom that is not inferior to humans. Zhang Chong's mind was filled with all kinds of chaotic thoughts. Horror and confusion occupied his brain, but what frightened him the most was the cold murderous intention coming from the black snake. He only had that smell of death once when the boss took a gun. It was only when I pointed at my forehead that I felt it so clearly. Get away! Get away! Zhang Chong's eyes were filled with bloodshot eyes. He desperately tried to avoid the cloud-piercing black arrow, but his body couldn't react at all. Just now, he was charging forward without sparing any effort, but Su Zan exploded unexpectedly. The speed of this charge was so fast that even his brain could barely react. Zhang Chong instinctively stretched out his hand to block. But he couldn't even touch the snake's tail. Immediately afterwards. Then the boundless pain came. Ah! Zhang Chong roared in pain. The world in front of him turned bloody, and there was obviously a foreign object violently rushing into his left eye, and it even penetrated into the depths of his mind. Su Zan's ferocity broke out. The burst of strength, although not as strong as human Ming Jin, is still at least 200 kilograms strong. Almost instantly, it will squeeze the eyeballs of the person in front of you, and the brain will be turned upside down. The mixture of blood and various liquids that exploded in the eyeballs was extremely terrifying, but Su Zan didn't stop. He opened his snake's mouth and drilled in with his sharp fangs, and the venom was immediately sent into Zhang Chong's brain. Even if the venom is incorporated into the blood, it can kill an adult. What's more, being sent directly into the most deadly brain at this time. Just 3 breaths. Zhang Chong's painful roar stopped completely and suddenly stopped. Then, the body of this Ming Jin master suddenly fell to the ground. Su Zan's body twisted and his eyes came out from another hole. The blood all over his body made him look even more ferocious. This scene was even more frightening. He stared at the dead prey beneath him without any emotion wavering. There was only extreme indifference in the snake's eyes. He is now a snake. Su Zan recalled the battle just now. It can be said, it looks sinister. In fact, it is completely under his control. Although it stands to reason that Zhang Chong's frontal combat effectiveness is much stronger than that of Su Zan, but unfortunately, Su Zan is hiding in the dark, and he has no idea what kind of opponent he is facing. Not only has human wisdom, he also practiced Chinese martial arts to the realm of Ming Jin. It is reasonable to kill Zhang Chong instantly if he is so calculated and unintentional. But at this time, the light in Su Zan's mind kept flashing, and a trace of inspiration was pouring out. These days, he has been watching these guards practice their national arts. But these people are just practicing pile skills and have never shown any fighting skills at all. It also left Su Zan somewhat helpless. And just now, Zhang Chong burst out with all his strength. Whether it was the domineering movement or the unparalleled sharpness of his fists that turned into claws, Su Zan could see the changes in his energy that were completely different from those of his pile skills. This is exactly the nutrients he needs to grow. The ejection fatal blow just now was Su Zan's preliminary result. At this time, it is separated from the combat state. The aura brewing in his mind suddenly reached its peak. The arrow shot just now kept flashing in my mind, replayed, constantly improved, and finally reached a perfect state. The power penetrates the snake's bones and spits out. It's absolutely terrifying. You observe the martial arts of Mingjin human masters, combine them with the characteristics of snake bodies, and understand the power operation method that is most suitable for snakes. You create snake-like martial arts and snake bone penetration. Close black lens bracket. Joy filled Su Zan's heart. This feeling of integrating all your understanding and creating a new martial arts is really wonderful. His incredible understanding made him more and more confident. Even though he is in the body of a snake now, one day he will completely shake the whole world. Creating this snake bone penetration, the strength condenses into the snake bone and turns into a sharp arrow to penetrate. The lethality is at least twice as powerful as the hasty strike just now. If I could understand the snake bone penetration just now, I would be able to penetrate this guy's eye sockets with a head-on attack without taking him by surprise. Su Zan is very confident. But the most important thing now is to leave quickly. The battle just now actually lasted only a few breaths. Enlightenment is also a momentary thing. The base behind him was still in chaos, and no one came over at all, because everyone had absolute confidence in Zhang Chong, a master of Mingjin, but he still couldn't take down a small snake. But they wouldn't think of it. How perverted is Su Zan? Su Zan climbed down from Zhang Chong's body. Suddenly, something moved in my heart. What's the difference between killing without touching the body and killing in vain? His flexible snake tail rummaged through the pockets of Zhang Chong's clothes, and in just a moment, he immediately found a bunch of things. Postcards, mobile phones, keys, whistles and 2 glass bottles of brown liquid. What's this? Su Zan was curious, but now was not the time to rummage carefully. He was afraid that the phone had satellite positioning, so he put the phone away, then rolled up the other things in the bag with a snake tail. Su Zan looked at the silver-white base where shouts could be vaguely heard, with endless coldness in his pupils, and whispered in his heart. I will come back. As the starting point of rebirth, this underground base obviously contains many secrets. Moreover, Su Zan is a person who must take revenge. These people caught themselves as test subjects, and they must pay the price. He stared deeply at the base, then rushed out into the forest with the loot swept away. The night was dark, and the cool wind blew on the snake's body, making Su Zan gradually feel excited. The real takeoff has begun. At the same time. Underground base. After inputting some operating instructions, the base door has been locked tightly. The remaining snakes basically couldn't reach the gate. The guards wearing silver-white protective clothing were constantly moving around, holding snakes in their hands and throwing them into the snake box. With the special protective clothing, these snakes were completely no threat to them. These beasts don't know if they took the wrong medicine, but they dare to rebel. I really want to crush them to death. Calm down your temper. We really want to crush them to death. Boss, can't you crush us to death? What a hell. This is the first time I've seen something like this after being here for so long. Do you think it was the mutated black snake that did it just now? Impossible. How is it impossible? I remember that some of the experimental subjects below have the ability to control snakes, but they are not so perverted. Everyone cursed and threw the snake into the snake box while making various speculations. Heard speculation about black snakes. Some people couldn't help but their eyes lit up. If it is true, this mutant is absolutely precious. Maybe we will get a blessing in disguise this time. You're right. This black snake is more important than any other snake. I don't know if Brother Zhang has caught it. Why hasn't it happened yet? You are stupid. The door is closed now. How can Brother Zhang come in when he is outside? Work quickly, throw these disgusting things in, and then go out and take a look. Everyone was filled with anticipation and worked harder and harder. Snakes were roughly thrown into the snake box one after another. Without Suzanne's control, they were just a ball of loose sand. They had no resistance at all in front of these figures in protective suits, and they couldn't even cause the slightest trouble. An hour later, there was finally no snake visible in the entire hall, but the dirty and slippery traces showed what had just happened here. Old Lee took a long breath and cursed. What a hell, I'm so exhausted. Next time, don't open the box casually. If we have the authority to control the robotic arm, why would we bother with this? Stop talking nonsense and open the base door quickly. Brother Zhang must be waiting outside. Someone urged. At this time, a hesitant voice sounded. Something's wrong. Brother Zhang can't come in. You can always talk through the walkie-talkie. Why is there no movement at all? As he spoke, he called Brother Zhang several times through the intercom, but there was no response. Everyone fell silent. I just felt a little hairy all over my body, and a creepy feeling lingered in my heart for some time. Open the door and take a look before we talk. Old Lee gritted his teeth and said. Immediately enter the control command to open the east door. Everyone cautiously moved towards the outside, step by step, as if there was some savage beast outside. The mountain wind blows. There was no movement at all outside. Just as everyone was about to breathe a sigh of relief, they heard an exclamation. Look! Everyone looked over, their scalps suddenly numb, and they felt as frightened as a ghost. They met Brother Zhang. However, Brother Zhang is not alive, he has turned into a cold corpse. For a moment, the sounds of swallowing were heard one after another, and everyone felt that their hands and feet were cold and extremely frightened. Brother Zhang is dead. It was difficult for everyone to accept this fact. A few hours ago, everyone was chatting and thinking about the future together, but they didn't expect that life and death would be separated in a short time. But everything in front of me is so real. Zhang Chong's body lay on his back, not breathing at all. The hearts of those who looked at the two ferocious empty eye sockets were trembling wildly, their eyeballs bursting, and their brains popping out. It was hard to imagine how painful it was during life. On top of Zhang Chong's body, insects such as ants had begun to climb over and suck the blood. Lao Li staggered slightly, and he was the first to rush over. Sensing Zhang Chong's heart and breath, his face suddenly became even more ugly. Brother Zhang, he is really dead. Everyone felt chilly in their hearts. But what followed was manic anger. Who killed Brother Zhang? Brother Zhang is a master of Ming Jin, and he is not weak even among Ming Jin. He can prevent him from even sending out a distress signal through the walkie-talkie. Could it be that he is a master of An Jin or even a master of Hua Jin? But here in the wild mountains, apart from our people, no one else comes. Could he be an enemy of the organization? While the guards were vigilant about their surroundings, they had various speculations in their minds. Until Old Lee's faint voice sounded. Perhaps. Brother Zhang was not killed by someone else. Old Lee, you are out of your mind. You didn't kill someone. Could it be a ghost? Lao Li pointed at the eye sockets of Zhang Chong's body and his voice trembled slightly. Look, Brother Zhang died after something got into his eye socket. His face has turned black, and he was obviously poisoned. So, what are you not thinking? Everyone gasped, their eyes filled with disbelief. You mean, it's that black snake. How can this be? A snake killed Brother Zhang from Master Ming Jin. It's simply a fantasy. Everyone was stunned. It seemed as if there was a pair of cold and cruel eyes watching him and others deep in the night. Lao Li suppressed the fear in his heart and said slowly. To be honest, I can't believe it, but judging from all the signs now, the black snake is the most likely. Think about it, before the snakes rioted, the black snake suddenly exploded, and then Brother Zhang died inexplicably. Are there some connections between these events? Lao Li looked around at everyone, his mouth dry. This black snake may have mutated to a certain extent and even has considerable intelligence. It has been hiding itself. This matter is no longer something we can handle. Please report it to Director Shu, otherwise, we will die miserably. Everyone was silent. If there is no monitoring, they can still use monitoring to restore the entire incident, but now, they can only rely on guessing. The matter was too difficult, and it was beyond their imagination. They feel more and more. That black snake was extremely strange, and everyone was filled with deep-seated fear. Underground base. -1 floor. The overall silver-white metal style is full of a sense of technology. The beautiful woman with a hot figure is looking at the guards in front of her with great interest, her eyes full of scrutiny and condescension. The guards who had often secretly fantasized about this woman now didn't dare to take a breath, and they all behaved like chickens. Xu Shiqing's voice was indifferent, which was different from Su Zan's indifference. Su Zan's indifference was ruthless and cold, but this woman's indifference was that she didn't pay attention to the people in front of her at all and was dismissive. You just said that you let go of a precious mutant snake. Lao Li and everyone's scalps were numb, and they were about to explain. They saw the woman opposite slowly getting up, and figures behind them in protective suits holding firearms locked their muzzles on them. It is able to control hundreds of thousands of snakes and possesses considerable wisdom. It is conservatively estimated that it will not be lower than the level of a 10-year-old human child. This should be a king-type mutant snake, and the degree of mutation is extremely high. No, not only that, it's also extremely fast. Even, he can kill Zhang Chong, a master of Ming Jin, in one-on-one, with both speed and strength. This is definitely a baby snake that is evolving in multiple evolutionary directions at the same time. It has great potential. Xu Shiqing murmured to herself, a hint of fanaticism gradually emerging in her eyes. The more Lao Li listened, the more frightened everyone became. Their faces turned pale and they were dripping with cold sweat. Xu Shiqing turned around. Do you know, in this base now, after how long I have worked hard, I have only succeeded in 2 snake species evolving in the composite direction. They are all my children, my treasures. But now, you're telling me that you lost my 3rd baby. The woman's voice became shriller, her murderous intent undisguised. With so many dark guns pointing at them behind them, Lao Li and the others suddenly collapsed, their knees weakened, and they all fell to the ground. Director Shu, we know we were wrong. That black snake was hidden very deep, and we were unaware of it for a moment. Please spare our lives and give us a chance to make amends. Everyone was frightened and kept kowtowing. Xu Shiqing lazily lay back on the chair and glanced at everyone casually. Only for you trash. Let Zhao Qinghe come back quickly. He is your boss. He also has the responsibility if his subordinates are not strict. Half a month, I'll give you half a month. If you can't see my baby by then there is no need for you to live. Say it. She waved her hands lazily. Lao Li and everyone felt like they were being pardoned, and they all kowtowed as if they were pounding garlic. Thank you very much, Director Shu, we will definitely bring that black snake back to you. They left in a hurry. Half a month is not much time. They still have to wait for the boss to come back, which will take a lot of time. Xu Shiqing didn't look at the people whose buttocks were peeing anymore. She has always looked down upon these shrimp soldiers and crab generals. She felt that they were unorganized and undisciplined. They only had brute force. They all had good martial arts talents, so what? In this day and age, technology first. No matter how powerful you are in cultivation, can you still defeat the gun in your hand? Even the so-called Wajan Grandmaster can dodge ordinary firearms and cannot defeat tanks and artillery. However, these people are good for catching snakes. Xu Shiqing thought of the black snakes described by these people, and her eyes showed excitement and expectation. When this treasure is caught, we can conduct new experiments. Maybe this time my experiment will have a qualitative breakthrough. Naturally, Suzan didn't know everything that happened in the underground base. At this time, he was walking through the jungle, extremely excited, enjoying the taste of freedom. As a human in his previous life, he was naturally afraid of such a dark jungle, but now he is a powerful snake, like the king of the night, and will basically not encounter any danger. I don't know how long I traveled. The sky is slightly white. Suzan felt that he was far away from the base, so he stopped temporarily. It should be almost safe, then slowly stay away. He breathed a sigh of relief. The underground base was extremely mysterious and he was very scared, but he was also extremely curious to know what experiments were going on inside. But now his power is not enough. When he is strong enough, he will naturally fight back. Suzan put away his distracting thoughts and turned his attention to the bag in front of him. These were the trophies looted from Zhongchong, and he also had expectations for these things. After a night of walking through the jungle, the bag in front of me was already full of scratches, but fortunately it was still tough enough and everything inside was still there. Suzan's snake tail dexterously poured out the contents. I have briefly looked at it before, but now I will take a careful inventory. Those things such as postcards and whistles are undoubtedly useless to Suzan now. He cared most about two things. One is a silver dagger-shaped key. Although I don't know what the key is, it must be useful for being carried by this little boss. It may be the key to a warehouse where valuables are stored somewhere in the base. It may come in handy in the future. Think about it. Suzan swallowed the silver key in one gulp, and then controlled his muscles to lock it in his body. With his current body shape, swallowing a small key would not be a big problem. Then, he turned his attention to this second thing. That is, the two glass bottles filled with brown liquid. At this time, Suzan took a closer look and discovered the small fonts on it. RT-type snake genetic fluid. He felt slightly happy. I had already guessed it just now, because I smelled a vaguely familiar smell, which was almost exactly the same as the previous snake food, but much richer. It was immediately proven. The previous snake food was definitely a diluted version of this genetic fluid. He had a feeling. If you swallow this genetic fluid, it will definitely be of great benefit to you. After uncorking the bottle, the strong fragrance that only snakes could smell was 10 times stronger. Not only that, Suzan could even feel instinctive desire coming from every pore of his body. Definitely good stuff. Suzan sensed the cave he was in and found that no creature was approaching, so he no longer hesitated. 2 bottles of genetic fluid were consumed together. The brown liquid soaked into the snake's throat. Suzan's spirit was shaken, and in an instant he felt a wonderful power pouring into every inch of his flesh and blood. This energy is powerful, rich, but at the same time extremely explosive and brutal. It seemed like he wanted to tear Suzan apart alive. Suzan suddenly understood. No wonder the genetic fluid must be diluted into that kind of snake food. It turns out that it is because ordinary snakes cannot withstand this violent energy. With his body now far stronger than that of ordinary snakes, he felt great pressure, let alone other snakes. He was not wrong. The snakes locked in the hall are massive samples, and they are fed snake food every day in order to screen out snakes with extraordinary resistance to the genetic fluid, or even direct genetic mutation due to unlucky luck. At this time, Suzan was already recognized by Xu Shiqing as a multi-mutated snake with extraordinary talents. Fortunately, I have created the snake bone vibration breathing method, so you don't have to worry about not being able to absorb it. Suzan didn't hesitate at all. Start shaking the snake bones. The unique breathing rhythm made his body rise and fall together, like a dragon. Buzz buzz. The 2-meter-long black snake was twisting and vibrating. The scene looked very strange, and it kept making buzzing sounds. I had been unable to practice the snake bone vibration breathing method with all my strength in the snake box before. Now I can finally practice it with all my strength. The effect is even better than before. The energy that was violently tearing flesh and blood began to merge into Suzan's body at an alarming speed. The so-called genetic fluid. From a biological perspective, it provides a huge amount of energy suitable for snakes, allowing them to continue cell division and grow in a short period of time. Originally, Swallowing the genetic fluid roughly like this would basically lead to death. But the breathing method created by Suzan is too powerful. It can be absorbed efficiently and losslessly. At this time, in the nameless cave, the black snake's body surface continued to burst with blood, but it immediately began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. And after every healing, it can be seen that the black snake's body has grown sharply, and the snake scales on its body have become more obvious and deep. The whole process seemed to be accelerated countless times. The magical side of creatures is taking place in the cave. This is not only a change in body shape, but also a deeper genetic change. At least now, Suzan feels that he is no longer like any known snake on Blue Star. Those snake scales are unique. Wow! The snake's body kept swaying in the cave, and the sound of shaking gravel continued to sound, and the movement became more and more violent. I don't know how much time has passed. Only then did Suzan feel that the genetic fluid energy in his body was completely exhausted. And the transformation finally stopped. Hiss! Suzan raised his upper body and neighed instinctively, immediately feeling the amazing changes in himself. First, it is an extremely abundant strength and a strong and slender body. In his perception, his body length is now close to 8 meters. A full 4 times as much as before. The girth has also more than doubled. In other words, now Suzan's weight has reached more than 300 kilograms, or even heavier. The thick feeling filled him with a sense of security. Now he can no longer be called a snake, it is more appropriate to call him a python. Not only that, the snake bone vibration breathing technique has also been greatly improved. It is almost reaching the peak of Ming Jin. The strength I have gathered now is much greater than before. One blow can at least produce several thousand kilograms of force. Suzan was amazed. This is the terrifying power of the combination of martial arts and python. In the same realm, naturally the greater the weight, the more advantageous one has, and the strength is completely different. Suzan before. At 2 meters, a full burst can only produce 200 kilograms of force, which is okay against ordinary people, but facing Zhang Chong, who is also Ming Jin, he can only rely on surprise to win with one blow. But the situation is reversed. If Suzan were to face Zhang Chong again, he would be able to smash him into a pool of flesh and blood by slapping the snake's tail at will and bursting out with huge force. Thousands of kilograms of strength is no joke. If it continues to evolve and becomes a super giant python that is more than 10 meters or even tens of meters tall, then it will be truly invincible. It may not be possible to destroy buildings, crack the ground, and turn rivers upside down with just one blow. Moreover, my state of martial arts can continue to grow, reaching dark strength, transformation strength, and even higher. By then, I can't believe how strong I am. Suzan couldn't help but laugh in his heart. This taste of evolution is really wonderful. Although it is a snake, this sense of accomplishment is something I have never experienced as a human before. Maybe even one day, if you find the right method, you may not be able to become a dragon in myths and legends, or even a real dragon. Although I roughly know from the chats of the guards that this is the end of the Dharma era when magical powers are not manifest, I have a heaven-defying understanding. As long as I find some residual extraordinary power, I may not be able to find a way out. Suzan is very confident in himself. Suzan continued to feel the changes in her body. In addition to the most significant changes in body shape, changes in other aspects should not be underestimated. Such as snake scales. The black snake scales the size of bottle caps are getting tougher and tougher, covering the entire body and divided into 2 layers. The inner layer is soft and does not affect Suzan's movements, while the outer layer is extremely tough. He even doubted it. Now my scales are strong enough to withstand shots from firearms such as pistols. This also greatly improved his defensive capabilities. In terms of toxicity, it has also been retained. Generally pythons are non-venomous. But Suzan's evolution is particularly unique. He could feel the huge poison sac in his body, which stored terrifying venom. Just 1 or 2 drops could easily kill an adult. If he used his full strength, even an elephant would not be able to resist it. And inside the body, there is an unknown change happening. This is also the fundamental reason for his various miraculous transformations. This is the dual function of the snake bone vibration breathing method and the genetic fluid, both of which are indispensable. Could it be genetic evolution? Suzan murmured to himself. During the entire transformation process after taking the genetic fluid, his consciousness was extremely clear, and he was fully aware of the changes that had taken place in his body. Every inch of flesh and blood was torn apart. Then he recovered immediately, growing wildly. During the whole process, he could clearly sense the changes that had taken place in his body, and the transformation of his snake scales and poisonous sacs. Perhaps, I can use my power to guide the snake scales and poison sacs to evolve and sublimate in a more powerful direction. In this apocalyptic era, before mastering extraordinary power, the threat of thermal weapons is undoubtedly huge. He knows the bad nature of mankind. An existence like his own will never be accepted by the world. If he is discovered, what awaits him will definitely be an endless pursuit. It's not enough to fend off pistols and microchargers. If Suzan wants stronger defense capabilities, it is best to be able to withstand sniper rifles and even bombs, so that the safety factor will be greatly improved. He will not underestimate the technological combat power of the human world. This is the thought. Suzan suddenly had a flash of inspiration in his heart. His body was spiraling up, and the snake's head was almost touching the top of the cave. The previous evolutionary process was constantly replayed in his mind like a slideshow. The operation of biological energy in the body, the formation process of snake scales, and the growth of poison sacs were all displayed in detail. Once you have a direction, your heaven-defying understanding will show your truly powerful side. Suzan is running various simulations in his mind. Jinli joined in and started to guide. Don't know how long it has been. Suzan could feel that the power in his body finally formed the correct guidance method, and he was shocked. You analyzed the entire process of genetic evolution, clearly understood the help of biological energy in evolution, and tried to guide it with the power of Chinese martial arts. After countless simulation attempts, you finally succeeded. You created the secret technique of snake evolution, flesh and blood scale armor, and suffocating poison, close black lens bracket, feeling the energy in the body begin to operate in a strange way. His snake scales and poisonous sacs were slowly strengthening, and Suzan couldn't help but feel excited. Flesh, scales, and suffocating poison. This is the direction of evolution in the future. So far, all the gains from killing Zhang Chong were digested. Although the entire process of evolution and creation of the secret technique took 2 days, Suzan felt it was well worth it. I have experienced transformation again. His strength has increased explosively, and now he is definitely the real king of the jungle. The root of it all. It's because of those 2 bottles of genetic fluid. Genetic fluid, if I can get enough genetic fluid, my strength will definitely improve horribly. Even if the genetic fluid's improvement effect will continue to weaken later, it will definitely be considerable. Unfortunately, now is not the time to go back. Suzan was enthusiastic, and then felt a little regretful. He is very self-aware. It seems that he is very powerful now, and the 8-meter giant python can explode with thousands of kilograms of force in one blow, but now he has no idea about the deeper situation in the base. He didn't believe that such a place with advanced biotechnology would not be strictly guarded. The several underground floors are the real essence of this base. At least, I have to wait until my size increases to more than 10 meters, or even 20 meters, and my scales are strong enough to withstand most thermal weapons before I can fight back. Pushing horizontally is the way to go. Suzan must avenge himself, but he doesn't like to take risks. If you want revenge, you must take it once and for all. Although I really want to go back and kill all those guys. But now the best way is to stay dormant and grow silently. With the speed of his evolution and growth, this day will be very fast. After all, it had only been 5 or 6 days since he was reborn as a snake. Silently suppressing the murderous intention in his heart, Suzan began to consider his next plan. Hunt, grow, practice national arts, and break through the dark power. The 2 secret techniques of evolution must also be cultivated to a strong enough level. He moved his body, causing quite a bit of movement. Now I want to grow. The number of prey needed must not be small. Now that there is no snake food to support, everything can only be done by yourself. Suzan, without any trace of ink, snaked his body towards the outside of the cave. He grew into an 8-meter python, but his speed increased instead of decreasing. At the realm of Mingjin, the power penetrated the snake's bones. If he moved with all his strength, he would be as fast as a black lightning. Hunting is not difficult for him. In the primeval forest. The trees are towering and the vines are intertwined. There are all kinds of ferocious beasts unimaginable in the human world, and there are dangers everywhere. Even the tiger, the king of beasts, dare not say that he is completely safe, as poisonous things that appear from nowhere can take away the lives of the overlords. But for Suzan, it was as easy as strolling in the back garden. An 8-meter giant python, and a mutant that practices Chinese martial arts. Suzan's powerful perception can easily detect dangers within 100 meters nearby. In other words, he is the biggest danger. He can easily control his aura and touch the vicinity of his prey. Definitely the most terrifying killer in the jungle. Such as this time, a wild boar doesn't know yet that crisis is coming. Whoosh! Crack! Black lightning suddenly exploded in the jungle. There was a cold light in Suzan's snake eyes, and the slender and thick python tail was shot fiercely with a muffled sound. The wild boar was frightened, but the extremely fast speed made it not resist at all. Room. Thousands of kilograms of force exploded, and the wild boar's internal organs were smashed to pieces in an instant. Kill instantly with one hit. Suzan smiled with satisfaction in his heart. This was not his first time hunting, and he was becoming more and more familiar with it. The python's tail rolled up the wild boar carcass and dragged it up, and the python's mouth gradually opened to an exaggerated extent. Eat, let's start. A wild boar is quite large, but as a python, the opening of its mouthparts is extremely exaggerated. Eat prey alive. This is not the first time Suzan has done this. In his previous life, he had a mental struggle when he ate a deer like this for the first time, but after he actually swallowed it, he realized that he had overthought it. Just get over the mental barriers. There is actually nothing particularly nauseating about eating. A python's senses are nothing like those of a human being. If you insist on comparing one or two, swallowing a wild boar is like swallowing a huge burger in one bite as a human. It feels a little stretched, but overall it still feels delicious. Gudong. Profuse secretion of saliva and digestive juices. A fat wild boar was swallowed into the python's belly. Visible to the naked eye, there was a bulge in the middle of the python's belly. If it is an ordinary python, swallowing such a large prey would take a long time for it to digest, at least half a month. During this period, the speed will also be affected and reduced significantly. But for Suzan, not at all. Although his speed is not as flexible as before, it is still a little slower. Even if the cheetah is in front of him, it cannot escape. Suzan climbed up a big tree and found a comfortable position to wrap himself around. Then digestion begins. Under conscious control, a large amount of gastric juice begins to be secreted in the body, which is highly corrosive. Not only that, the tough python bones began to tremble. As the oscillating breathing method operates, the wild boar in the body is immediately decomposed into streams of energy and integrated into every part of the python's body. Common python. Eating is only necessary to maintain basic activities and slow growth. But Suzan is here for evolution. Based on his digestion speed, this wild boar can be digested in an hour or two at most. Can be seen. Now Suzan's body has obviously grown, and has exceeded 8 meters. The 2 days of hunting have made his body grow by at least half a meter, and his growth rate is frighteningly fast. Although it is not as terrifying as genetic fluid, it is still a sure thing. And thanks to the 2 evolutionary secrets, flesh and blood scales and suffocating poison have also been further advanced. The black scales became deeper, more closely integrated with the flesh and blood, and more resilient, and the poison sacs in the body had begun to compress the venom. Suzan felt that the method of injecting the venom was too inefficient, and was trying to inject it directly one day. Poisonous fog comes out. Buzz buzz. The sound of the python bones vibrating resounded in the jungle, and an invisible majesty spread out. No wild beast dared to approach this area. No one knows. In the jungle, a giant python is evolving at an alarming rate. Time passes slowly. Suzan's life is extremely regular. Except for necessary rest, he spends most of his time on hunting and training. Ordinary pythons need to digest food for most of the day, but he does not need it. Yes, his growth rate is extremely rapid. At this time, he was already 9 meters long and his figure was even more amazing. He has broken the boundaries of species, surpassed most pythons, and is even gradually catching up with the former python overlord, Titanoboa. But Suzan did not take it lightly. He has not forgotten who his biggest enemy is. Although he has escaped from the base, who knows whether the other party will remain evil. Therefore, while Suzan hunts, he also consciously moves away from the base. In addition to the transformation and growth of body shape, what he values most is the realm of martial arts. This may be the cornerstone for truly stepping into the extraordinary realm in the future, and he attaches great importance to it. Now my whole body is full of energy, and every inch of flesh and blood can burst out with terrifying energy. I have almost reached the peak of my energy. Even the original little boss is not as good as me. Next, just gradually try to integrate the power into the pores and scales, and you can break through and advance naturally. Suzan had some expectations in his heart. By then his strength will surely be even stronger. The so-called dark strength. It penetrates the spine, and every pore in the body can burst out with unparalleled strength, which can hurt people invisible. It can also be combined with Ming Jin to burst out even more powerful power. For humans, it is not an easy task to exercise mental strength to control the spine. But Suzan is different. He is a snake, with a snake bone extending straight to the bottom, and he has an understanding that defies nature. This is just a matter of letting nature take its course. Suzan was thinking while crawling in the jungle. Go to the next area. These days, wherever he goes, every beast he encounters will suffer disaster and become nutrients for his growth. But let's be honest, he hasn't met a decent opponent yet. The only one who has a little bit of resistance is a chimpanzee, but at most it only allows him to slap his tail one more time. While thinking, his snake eyes shrank instinctively, and he seemed to detect a trace of dangerous aura within the range of his perception. Although it was very faint, it couldn't help but make him feel curious. He gathered his breath and crawled over. The figure of the beast suddenly came into view. A tiger, and it's an extremely ferocious Bengal tiger. The one in front of me is majestic, strong and tall, even more ferocious than the average Bengal tiger. Suzan passed by visually. Generally, the more ferocious Bengal tigers are only 3 meters long, but the one in front of you is even close to 4 meters long, with a shoulder height of about 1.5 meters, and its weight alone can reach at least 600 to 700 kilograms. What a fierce tiger! Suzan was slightly amazed. As a human being, there is no chance to see such a ferocious tiger. I have to sigh at the magic of nature. There may be too many mysteries that humans don't know about in the primeval forest. In terms of weight comparison, Suzan is much inferior to this tiger beast. A giant tiger like this, with one claw, would have a strength of at least 2,000 kilograms, or even more. If a human being encounters it, he will be the prey of the tiger's mouth. Ordinary pythons that are 8 or 9 meters long would have to take a detour when encountering such a ferocious tiger. But Suzan is obviously no ordinary python. There was a trace of excitement and murderous intent in his pupils. Hunting ferocious prey also made him feel the desire from the depths of his blood. If he swallowed such a tiger beast, it would definitely be a great supplement. Suzan worked hard and controlled his breath more and more. The huge body moved through the jungle without causing any movement. He is like the most skilled hunter, looking for opportunities and waiting for opportunities. In the dark vision of snake eyes, the giant tiger in the distance was still strolling leisurely. As the king of beasts, it had this confidence, but it didn't know that a terrifying hunter was already staring at it. The distance is getting closer. 30 meters. 20 meters. 10 meters. The giant tiger seemed to finally be aware of it, and felt a little uneasy. It could be seen that its contracted claws had been ejected at some point, and its eyes were no longer casual. Although I don't know where the crisis comes from, the instinct of the beast makes it a little manic. Roar. The violent roar shook the forest, and even the fallen leaves of the big trees were shaken off. If there were humans here, they would be scared to death. The roaring tigers in the mountains and forests are not fake. Suzan was extremely cold, with murderous intent and ferocity in his snake eyes. 9 meters. 7 meters. 6 meters. Crack. Suzan finally took action, and the sound of the python's bones shaking was extremely clear. He suddenly ejected from the top of the tree, turned into a black lightning, and struck hard at the giant tiger. The battle between python and tiger is about to begin. Suzan's eyes were full of fierce murderous intent. The snake's fighting instinct quickly made it enter a fighting state. In the special field of vision, the tense muscles of the giant tiger's legs and the swaying tiger hair could be clearly seen. Crack. Ming Jin broke out, Suzan suddenly exploded, and the python tail whipped out like a whip. The force of one blow weighs thousands of kilograms. The sound of breaking through the air resounded like thunder exploding. Roar. The giant tiger's animal instinct still allowed it to react at the critical moment. After all, he was the king of beasts that roamed the primeval forest, and he was not brought down so easily. Growled. The giant tiger swung its tail, and the iron whip-like tail also swept out. At this critical moment, compared to attacking and biting, swiping the tail was the fastest way to react. This kind of fighting instinct, if placed in the human world, would definitely be amazing. Snapped. The python's tail and the tiger's tail collided together. There was a clear sound of flesh and blood bursting. Although the giant tiger was powerful, its tail was not its strong point after all. It might be able to deal with ordinary prey, but it could not deal with the 9-meter giant python in front of it. Apparently not enough. Suzan exploded with strength and broke the tiger's tail in an instant. The flesh and blood exploded, and the tiger's tail was broken into 2 pieces. Unable to withstand such huge force, it exploded in the jungle, with ferocious blood foam everywhere. Roar. The giant tiger roared in pain. Only then did he realize that the beast that suddenly erupted in the darkness and put him in danger was actually a giant python. The slender and thick python body is covered with dark snake scales, and the looming sharp snake teeth can be seen in the open python mouth. This is completely different from the pythons it has seen. The giant tiger's eyes were full of fear. Roar. It roared in a low voice, trying to persuade the sneak attackers to retreat. I want to stop fighting here. From Suzan, it felt a strong sense of crisis, so much so that it didn't even want to take revenge on Suzan. But how could Suzan give up just like that? Since the giant tiger in front of him has been targeted by him, it is impossible to let him go. His mouth was hissing. The body ejected again, at an astonishing speed. The 9-meter-long body was not a burden at all, but provided him with ample strength. The giant tiger knew that he could not give up, and his instinct as a beast made him choose the most correct way to respond. The muscles of the giant tiger's majestic body were as tight as steel, and it rushed towards Suzan with great agility. It even brought up a strong wind. The clouds follow the dragon and the wind follows the tiger. This statement is indeed true. It once fought a giant python. Know how to look for their weaknesses. Use speed and strength to fight slowly and eventually tear the python's abdomen apart. Just be careful not to get entangled by the python in the process. Other pythons don't have as strong a slapping power as Suzan. Their strongest move is entanglement, using terrifying entanglement and strangulation to suffocate prey with broken bones. No doubt, Juhu made the right choice. If Suzan were an ordinary python, even if his body was 1 or 2 meters longer, he might not be able to defeat the giant tiger in front of him. Pity. Not Suzan. He is proficient in national martial arts, rich in fighting methods, and has various killing techniques. Crack. Working hard, the black python's tail shot out again like lightning, its terrifying power surpassing that of the giant tiger. The muffled sound of flesh hitting flesh echoed through the jungle. The giant tiger's body was swept away and hit a big tree, letting out a low roar of pain. Suzan's full burst of power was simply too terrifying. A giant python practicing Chinese martial arts is really outrageous. The python and the tiger fight. Just a few moments. The giant tiger had been injured in many places and had several broken ribs. It struggled to get up, already beginning to fear. This kind of opponent is more terrifying than any opponent it has encountered before. Animals have no sense of honor and disgrace, so when they encounter an opponent they cannot beat, they will naturally run away. The instinct of survival made the giant tiger flee into the distance. But Suzan obviously would not agree. Swish swish. The huge body does not look bloated at all. The snake bone penetration created originally can also be used for movement. Suzan crawls at an amazingly fast speed. He used the force to eject. The python's bones were so straight that it looked like a giant siege arrow flying in the air. Jet black. The giant tiger heard the violent sound of breaking through the air behind him, and felt his body suddenly sink. The giant python was actually wrapped around his body. Roar. The giant tiger roared in panic. It wanted to struggle, but it felt that its body was gradually rising into the air. It couldn't borrow any strength at all and could only bite instinctively. The sharp claws and tiger teeth bit the python's body, but the dark black snake's scales made the giant tiger know what it meant to be difficult to chew. No matter how hard it was, it could only tear the surface of the snake's scales, but on the inside, there was another layer that was combined with flesh and blood. The tiger's claws only penetrated a little and were stuck by the strong muscles. The blood, flesh and scales have already begun to bear fruit. In an instant, the layers of the python's body are layered, and the giant tiger has been completely entangled. By this time, the battle was basically settled. The entanglement strength of an ordinary python is already extraordinary, let alone Suzan. The giant tiger will not have any possibility of escaping. Suzan's python held its head high, raised its head to the sky and hissed. There was a touch of excitement in his heart. Defeating such a powerful giant tiger undoubtedly made him feel a strong sense of satisfaction. This was something that he could not even imagine when he was a human in his previous life. Sometimes after changing identities, you can feel the other side of the world. Suzan felt particularly clearly at this time. His mood was extremely high. Among the layers of python bodies, the giant tiger is still struggling. After all, it is the king of beasts and has a strong body. It cannot be strangled and suffocated in a few breaths. Certainly, Suzan has a faster method. That's venom. His python mouth opened, and the sharp fangs hidden in the mouthparts gradually protruded. At this time, he was suddenly startled. There was a slight strange feeling everywhere in the body. That's the force fluctuating and oscillating. Although the giant tiger could not use its strength, the strength of its body still gave it a certain resistance, far beyond what other prey could match. At this time, Suzan could completely feel the pressure on his snake scales. This feeling of oppression came at just the right time. On the contrary, it stimulated the fluctuation of Suzan's strength to some extent. In the realm of Mingjin, the strength reaches the flesh and blood. In the realm of dark strength, the strength penetrates the spine and can be emitted from the pores of the body. If it is human dark strength, it can explode with amazing power wherever it touches the body. Every place is a murderous weapon. Therefore, Mingjin is called a master, and Enjin is called a master. Originally, Suzan's promotion to Enjin was a natural process. But now that the giant tiger was struggling, the accidental collision accelerated the process, allowing him to sense in advance the hope of strength coming out of the snake's scales and pores. Perhaps, today is my opportunity to be promoted to Enjin. Suzan suddenly became excited. Kakaka. The python's body slowly shrank, becoming tighter and tighter, and the dull sound suddenly became clear. It was the overwhelming sound made by the giant tiger's bones. But Suzan did not use all his strength. If he wants to. At this time, all you need to do is inject the suffocating poison and then strangle it with all your strength. The giant tiger will definitely die within 5 seconds. But he needs the help of the giant tiger to gain access to dark power. Suzan even slowed down the intensity of the strangulation, trying to maintain a balance between his own strength and the giant tiger's struggle. He wanted to fully feel the power of the giant tiger's struggle acting on every part of his snake scales and pores. That made his energy extra active. Ouch! The roar of the giant tiger also became deeper and deeper. After the tiger's body and throat were compressed, the sound could not vibrate out at all, completely losing the momentum of the tiger roaring in the forest before. It keeps struggling, but there is no room for leverage, and the sharp claws and fangs cannot destroy Suzan's snake scales. Suzan adjusts the status. It is to completely enter the state of cultivation. Buzz. The snake bone vibration breathing technique operates quietly, and the entire python bone begins to vibrate. He has a natural advantage in advancing to Anjin, because the breathing method he created is to vibrate the python bone. Every practice process is actually a process of the force gradually penetrating into the python bone. So, that's why we had the opportunity to make a breakthrough so quickly. A master of Anjin's national division is called a master. Compared to Ming Jin, it has an extra layer of strength. The pores are thin with strength, and every part of the body will become a powerful killing weapon. For human beings, it is difficult for them to advance to the dark level. They need to exercise their mental strength and even experience the true meaning of fighting between life and death. Therefore, many of them will pressure themselves to find opportunities for breakthrough by engaging in underground black boxing. But for me, hunting every day is already a battle between life and death, and the instinctive intuition of beasts makes my mind pure and pure. Su Zan can feel it. When he was fully focused, he could already feel the subtle fluctuations and vibrations in his snake scales and pores. The tight muscles of the giant tiger were in contact with them, constantly bringing resistance, and the pressure was spraying towards every pore. Yes, that's what it feels like. Su Zan's heart was clear. His heaven-defying understanding made his cultivation extremely smooth. This opportunity was easily seized by him. Others might have the possibility of letting the miracle slip away, but it was impossible for him. He became more and more happy. The python's mouth opened unconsciously to an exaggerated angle, full of domineering and ferociousness. Jungle under the moon. The giant python is twisting the tiger's throat, looking up to the sky and hissing. If anyone saw this scene, they would definitely tremble all over. The giant tiger's struggle became increasingly weak, and the air he inhaled became less and less after the chest cavity was continuously squeezed. Su Zan watched indifferently, using the giant tiger's life as a stepping stone for himself to advance to Anjin. The python bone continued to vibrate, and Su Zan was gradually able to control the force to escape through the pores. Don't know how long it has been. Buzz. Only an extremely violent buzzing sound was heard. Su Zan's body was shaken. I felt that the extremely manic power all over my body spurted out from the pores all over my body at the same time, and the snake's scales faintly opened, releasing powerful power. Excitement flashed in his heart. At this moment, he could completely feel the powerful dark power erupting through every part of his body. Anjin, a successful breakthrough. That powerful feeling made him extremely intoxicated. Su Zan looked up to the sky and screamed silently. No more hesitation. Kakakaka. The strangling power of the body explodes with all its strength, and there are also dark energy strikes integrated into it. The bright and dark energy burst out together, and it is fierce and boundless. Just one breath. The giant tiger's body was compressed into a terrifying state. In an instant, all the bones of the giant tiger were broken. Without the support of bones, the originally majestic body was not even as thick as a small deer. Su Zan's eyes were cold. The python opened its mouth to an extreme arc and swallowed the completely dead giant tiger in one gulp. This is also the nutrient for growth. When the giant tiger had completely entered the belly of the python, Su Zan gradually stretched his body. This is the most powerful enemy he has encountered so far, but it still becomes food in his mouth. The python's bones vibrated, its breathing entered a strange rhythm, and the giant tiger's flesh and blood turned into strands of energy, beginning to contribute to Su Zan's evolution. It can be expected. After digesting this giant tiger, Su Zan's body will definitely grow again. At this moment, only then did he have time to realize the mystery of the Dark Realm. Dark Jin can be combined with Ming Jin, and the power exploded in this way will be doubled. That is to say, the power of my simple slaps can reach nearly 10,000 kilograms. This is an extremely terrifying force that can easily turn a person into a pulp. Not only that, after being promoted to Anjin, my pores can spray out my strength. Even if someone touches my 7-inch weak point, I can still give him a big surprise. Su Zan was very happy. This feeling of growing stronger is really wonderful. At this time, his speed, strength, perception and other aspects have been greatly enhanced. Although human Anjin cannot withstand bullets, he has the ability to predict and dodge ordinary firearms in advance. Needless to say, Su Zan. This greatly improves his survivability. But, when I was strangulating just now, my unconscious strength was running, and the power was particularly strong. Maybe, Anjin and Ming Jin can seem to be further integrated. Su Zan thought of the fleeting inspiration he had just strangled the giant tiger. Further consolidation began immediately. Possessing an incredible understanding, Su Zan's creativity is terrifyingly powerful. At this time, he recalled the strangulation scene just now in his mind. Strands of spiritual light kept flashing, and his body twisted and circled unconsciously, with dark energy gushing out, imitating the strangulation just now. I don't know how much time has passed. Su Zan was shocked. You recall the entire process of strangling the giant tiger, and further understand the fusion of dark strength and bright strength. You combine the dual strength with strangulation, and you create the snake martial arts death strangulation. Close black lens bracket. Su Zan was delighted. Death Stranding. This is definitely his strongest trump card now. If he were allowed to wrap around his prey and unleash his dual strength, even the human master of transformation might be killed. Something moved in his heart. The fusion of dual power is also extended to the two previously created evolutionary secrets, which can be further improved and make the evolutionary secrets more efficient. In the jungle, Su Zan's progress is frighteningly fast. And at the same time, underground base. A group of heavily armed men and horses have also entered the jungle. If Su Zan were here, you can find that there are many familiar faces among them, including Lao Li and others. That's right. These people wearing silver protective clothing are none other than the guards of the R-12,903 underground base. At this time, these sturdy guards shuttled through the jungle, equipped with complete tools, and several of them even carried firearms. In the jungle, such a team of people was absolutely invincible. 10 people cooperate with each other. They are all good at practicing Chinese martial arts. They also carry firearms. Even if they encounter tigers and wolves, they can kill them. The only thing they need to be careful about is the endless poisons in the jungle. But, with special protective clothing, they don't need to worry too much. It is now their third day out. Several big men held special detectors and kept detecting the surroundings. This was cutting-edge technology for detecting snakes. The cost of one unit started at 7 figures. Grass. Where did this fool black snake go? It can run so well. Lao Li couldn't help but muttered and complained, looking irritable. To be honest, traveling through the jungle is no easy task. Not only do you want to be alert at all times and be wary of wild beasts and poisonous insects that appear out of nowhere, but you also have trouble eating and sleeping, which is completely different from the days in the base. He trailed off. The atmosphere couldn't help but be commotion. Everyone froze and looked at the leading figure with twinkling eyes. Compared with other strong men, the leader appears to be much shorter, even less than 1.6 meters tall. It was Zhao Qinghe, the boss among everyone. Zhao Qinghe turned around. He pressed a button on the protective suit, and the fully enclosed mask immediately dropped, revealing an ordinary face. There was no trace of sadness or joy on his face. He slowly walked towards Lao Li, and also lowered Lao Li's mask, staring at him quietly. Lao Li realized that he seemed to have said the wrong thing and muttered, "Boss." But before he could finish his words, a heavy punch hit him in the face. Zhao Qinghe's face instantly turned ferocious. If you, a son of a person, hadn't secretly eaten and turned off the surveillance, why would I have to accompany you to this bullshit place to catch snakes? I'll catch your horse. He punched them down with no mercy. Lao Li wailed and begged for mercy, not daring to resist at all. Everyone was silent and did not even dare to persuade. Zhao Qinghe's fists were stained with blood. After a moment, it seemed that he finally vented his anger. He reached out and threw a medical bag, hitting Lao Li, and said coldly, "Wrap it yourself." Then he turned around and looked at everyone fiercely. "Don't blame me for not reminding you. If you can't catch the black snake, I will at most be punished. As for you, Shu Shiqing will kill you. Instead of complaining here now, why not think of ways to find the traces of this black snake as soon as possible and save your dogs' lives?" Zhao Qinghe took a deep breath, his eyes filled with gloom. He didn't expect it either. He just left the base once, and he made such a big mistake. Although he is a master of Anjin and has a certain status in the martial arts world, he is still nothing more than a pawn in front of the real powerful people. He spat harshly, thinking of the capture target this time. Eyes twinkling, he was surprised that the 2-meter-long black scaled snake could kill Mingjin masters. But I wasn't too worried. After all, he is a strong dark power, and with the help of so many good hands, firearms and many arresting tools, this black snake cannot be his opponent, but this black snake is too slippery. After 3 days of searching, he still couldn't find obvious traces. Half a month. Still a little tight. Yes, boss. Everyone bowed their heads in response. Someone couldn't help but asked, "Boss, who is Shu Shiqing that makes you so afraid?" "She is just a little biologist." Zhao Qinghe twisted his eyes and looked towards that person. He snorted heavily and said, "What's the origin? Do you really think she can become the person in charge of the R12903 underground base just because she is a biologist?" He slowed down and said seriously, "Her last name is Shu. The Shu family is one of the top-ranked beings among the Longguo family, and has great influence in the business world. I don't need to tell you how big the Haoyu Biotechnology Group is under its control, right? The same is true in the world of martial arts. Even many Huajin masters have close connections with it. Shu Zonggung, the master of the Dragon Kingdom who is known as the Thunder Hand, is a member of the Shu family. And Shu Shiqing is Shu's legitimate daughter." Everyone couldn't help but feel shocked. It was the first time they heard such a secret. "Originally, I was just afraid of Shu Shiqing's force, but I didn't expect that there was such a side. Shu family. What a behemoth this is. So, this underground base is the work of the Shu family?" Someone couldn't help but asked curiously. Zhao Qinghe glanced at him, shook his head and said, "No." Everyone's curiosity was completely aroused and they asked, "Who is that?" They have always been curious about the specific experiments conducted in the underground base. They only know that it has a certain relationship with the genetic mutation of snakes. If such a giant Shu family is behind the scenes, how terrifying should the people behind the scenes be? Could it be? They took a deep breath and did not dare to continue guessing. Zhao Qinghe snorted coldly, "If you don't want to die, don't continue to ask questions." Everyone quickly shut up. Sometimes knowing too much is not a good thing. Zhao Qinghe shocked his men, put on his mask, and turned around. Actually, even he himself only had some vague guesses about the people behind the Shu family. At one point he was involved in the transportation of mutant snakes. Accidentally bumped into it. The person in charge spoke Sakura language. Zhao Qinghe had always kept this matter in his heart and did not dare to mention it. If his guess was true, he would not know how he died if it was leaked. And Jin is certainly very strong compared to ordinary people. But in the eyes of some people, it's just a little more effort. "Boss, come here quickly, we found traces here, like those left by the black snake a few days ago." Zhao Qinghe looked happy. Chase. Blessings and misfortunes come together. If he could catch such a precious mutated black snake, he would be rewarded quite a lot, and he might even be able to ask Shu's Huajin Grand Master to give him personal guidance. Suzan still didn't know that the capture team from the underground base had begun to move towards him. He still maintained a comfortable hunting rhythm. After digesting the giant tiger, he continued to hunt for several days and successfully increased his body to 10 meters. The 10-meter giant python is absolutely terrifying. Comparable to some titanoboa. Certainly. He did not relax his vigilance and was always on guard against the underground base. However, with his current height of 10 meters and the realm of Anjin, he is really not afraid of ordinary threats. After all, he is deep in the forest, and tanks and artillery cannot easily come in, unless it is missiles that clear the ground. But this is almost impossible. Is it crazy to use missiles to clear the ground for a snake? Suzan wanders in the jungle. The 10-meter-long body is completely black, and the snake's scales make him look extremely thick. At this time, there were new changes on the black snake scales, and wisps of light red lines gradually spread over them, which was a sign of a closer combination of flesh and scales. He is constantly looking for suitable prey. Ever since he hunted a giant tiger that day and tasted the sweetness, he has been looking for powerful beasts as much as possible, which can provide him with more evolutionary energy. Pity. There are not many ferocious beasts like giant tigers, you can only rely on luck. He had some regrets. After being promoted to Anjin, and understanding the powerful martial arts such as Death Stranding, his combat power increased dramatically, but it was a pity that he had no opponent to vent his anger on. Suzan swallowed the deer in front of him in one gulp and closed his eyes to digest it. He missed the genetic fluid a little. That kind of abundant energy fascinated him and could save a lot of time. Deep in the jungle, Zhao Qinghe and others were a little out of breath. Just now, they met a group of wild wolves, and after a lot of effort, they finally killed the group of wild wolves, even using firearms during the process. Generally they do not use guns because the noise is too great and they are afraid of attracting other hunters. How capable is this black snake of running? Zhao Qinghe gritted his teeth and looked hatefully. Everyone has suffered a lot these days. I originally thought that the black snake would not run too far, at most it would be near the base, but I didn't expect that it would reach such a long distance without knowing it. Good thing. They finally got something. Boss, there are new discoveries. The traces here were left in the past day or two. They are very fresh. That black snake is definitely nearby. The thin young man named Monkey said excitedly at first, then hesitated. But nothing. However, these traces show that this guy's body shape seems to have changed somewhat. Zhao Qinghe sneered. So what if it changes? A 2-meter snake can turn into a 7 or 8-meter python in just a few days. Even if it does turn into a 7 or 8-meter python, I'm not afraid of it. You guys with guns, be careful. If you find any trace of this beast, don't hit his vitals. This beast's life is much more precious than yours. Yes, boss. Everyone was excited. After so many days of chasing, I finally found it. Bring out the genetic fluid, let's lure the snake out of its hole. Zhao Qinghe's eyes were a little ferocious. He knows. These snakes have no resistance to genetic fluid. If this black snake is nearby, it will definitely be attracted. Zhao Qinghe reached out and took the genetic fluid, poured a little on the fallen leaves and tree trunks, and sprinkled a little everywhere. In an instant, a strange smell filled the jungle, which is especially harmful to snakes. The fatal attraction. Then, everyone dispersed. The protective clothing on his body slowly changed into camouflage color, and the pursuers crouched everywhere, perfectly blending into the environment. This black snake has a certain amount of wisdom, but no matter how smart it is, it can't compare to the most powerful human being. Zhao Qinghe's eyes were fierce, and the strong sense of dark power was scattered in all directions. As long as the black snake appears around, he will definitely be able to find it immediately, unless the black snake is at the same dark power level as himself. He laughed dumbly and put away the absurd thoughts in his mind. Suzan climbed out of the cave. After a short sleep break, I will have enough energy to start a new hunt. The huge body does not look bloated at all, but can shuttle through the jungle with great flexibility. Not only that, the python's body presses over the fallen leaves without even making the slightest sound, showing Suzan's extremely precise control of the body. After the Dark Realm, he has been greatly strengthened in all aspects. For example, in terms of breathing, if he were allowed to hunt a giant tiger again now, he would be sure to rush within 3 meters of the giant tiger before being discovered. Suzan thought in his mind. Thinking about moving to the next area, the territory of the beasts is basically divided, and the overlord of this area has already become Suzan's prey. While thinking, his spirit suddenly shook and his pupils shrank. A strange smell gradually wafted from far away, with an attraction that seemed to come from the soul. Suzan is very familiar with that smell. RT-type snake genetic fluid. The people from the underground base are here. Suzan's first reaction was this. This place is far, far away from the underground base. The smell of genetic fluid suddenly appears here. There is only one possibility, and it is 9 out of 10 that these people want to use the genetic fluid to hang themselves out. Otherwise it would never be such a coincidence. A wave of coldness and murderous intent arose in his heart. There is a way to heaven if you don't take it, but if there is no door to hell you can come to it on your own. He hasn't fought back to the underground base. It's not that he has forgotten, but he is quietly accumulating strength. But if the other party comes to him automatically, then he can't be blamed. If these people are not strong enough, Suzan doesn't mind charging some interest first. He has confidence, because the speed of his growth is absolutely unimaginable by the other party. In these people's minds, they are just a 2-meter-long black snake, so they will not exert too much force. Suzan completely restrained his breath, like a cold mechanical python, crawling towards the distance. As the distance got closer, he gradually felt the familiar breath. The sneer in Su Zan's pupils became more intense. Zhao Qinghai and others ambush quietly. Protective clothing not only has excellent protective capabilities, but also can shield snakes from heat induction, so they are not afraid of being discovered. But at this time, they had been waiting for several hours, but still had no results. However, a few other venomous snakes were attracted. Zhao Qinghai took care of them all casually, and ordinary poisonous snakes were vulnerable to a strong dark power. But the most critical black snake still hasn't come. Isn't this black snake already leaving this area? Judging from the tracking these days, this beast seems to be consciously moving away from the base. We'll wait and see. If it doesn't work, we can only waste this bottle of genetic fluid. Zhao Qinghai thought silently. Fortunately, he came out this time with 4 bottles of genetic fluid, and he had at least 3 more chances to lure the snake out of its hole. He glanced at the men hiding everywhere opposite him and nodded secretly. Fortunately, everyone was able to endure the loneliness at the critical moment and never lost track. There was silence in the jungle. There was only the occasional chirping of insects, or the rustle of fallen leaves in the breeze. Inexplicably, Zhao Qinghai felt that the jungle seemed eerily quiet, and a faint pressure enveloped him. Instinctively he felt a little uncomfortable. I saw Lao Li standing across from me suddenly. Just as he was about to yell angrily, he saw the unbelievable horror and fear in Lao Li's eyes, and his voice was so sharp that it was distorted. "Boss, run away." Zhao Qinghai felt a coldness instantly envelope him, and he subconsciously turned his head. He saw a terrifying bloody mouth coming towards him to swallow him. Horrible, it spread all over my body in an instant. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and support my channel.